Welcome back to the Robbins Business Show. Come on in and sit down for a while. We're going to talk about health insurance. Big topic. This is the Robbins Business Show, and this is all about developing your very best business ideas. I'm the co-host, Bill Fox, but the other co-host, now get this guy.
I won't believe this, John.
This guy is captivating. He's magnetic, and he's invincible.
Superman.
Coach Robbins.
Mr. Bill.
And we have sometimes we have a guest, sometimes we don't. We have a guest today, which is highly advisable, especially when we're talking about healthcare. We're going to be talking to John Foley, who's Vice President, Consultant, Employee Benefits at Rogers & Gray. And welcome to the show, John.
Thank you, Bill.
John.
Thank you for helping us.
Thank you.
And as I say, we're going to talk about healthcare for small business. We say that, I mean, that's an entirely different subject, or healthcare for big business. Not the same thing at all. And it's but for small business, it's complicated, difficult to navigate and to understand and to navigate and take care of. We're gonna attack that.
Sounds good.
And as I sent you an email, I don't know, we'll go as far as we can today, but we may have to come back, later and so forth. I mean, it's a big subject.
Perfect.
And John, we're going to start off. We're going to talk about the cost of healthcare insurance for businesses. We're saying under 50 employees, and I might say, Coach, that it's funny. You've told me this 100 times, but the Small Business Administration, the federal government, SBA, says small business is less than 500 employees.
Yeah. That's one of their parameters, that if it's 501, it's big. If it's 499, it's small. And I don't even remember what the hell they talk about when it's just 500. Is it over or under? But 500 is the cutoff.
But
that's pretty big.
We're going to put that out of mind.
Yeah.
Because,
let's get to real small businesses, which is 50 employees, 100 employees, 12 employees.
Correct.
And I think John is going to say that because there's reasons for saying 50.
Right.
Instead of 60, 70, 80, 90, or 100, I mean, there's a reason for that, which you're going to tell us.
Correct. Right. Exactly.
So go ahead. We're going to talk about, again, cost of group health insurance for businesses under 50 employees.
Yeah, and that 50 number is really, to me, I mean, I think someone that created a business owner that has 5 employees or 10 employees, it's quite an accomplishment. That's a nice business.
It is.
The under 50 mark is really based on the Affordable Care Act. The Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, some call it, really sets the mark at 50 and under that aren't applicable to certain mandates. 50 and over are applicable to certain mandates. So I think for today's show, we'll talk about the under 50 market. I really don't like the term small business, because again, I think it takes away from a little bit of someone who has 10 employees. That's a wonderful business for that business owner. So small just doesn't seem to.
I guess when I had 50 employees, I was a small business. I thought it was pretty big.
Big business, right?
$12 million a year. I didn't think it was that small a business.
Correct, and I agree completely. So.
Yeah.
Well, we're only using it because we don't have anything better.
Right.
Exactly right. Right. And quite honestly, that's the market. That's the industry
the law,
as well.
Yeah.
And you say that the cost of health insurance for employees is what you're calling here unsustainable increases.
Yeah.
Now, that, if you don't mind, that's pretty scary.
Yeah, and for the listeners and for any business owners out there, they're living it on a year-to-year basis, on a month-to-month basis. So health insurance, specifically here in the Massachusetts market, we have access to some of the best facilities in the world. People from all over the world come to Boston to go to Mass General, to go to Children's and Dana-Farber.
Beth Israel, yeah.
And that costs money.
Right.
So the cost of health insurance here in New England is higher, or one of the highest costs in the USA. And I say unsustainable because if you're a business owner, and let's say your total cost of your health care is for all of your employees, let's say it's 10 employees, is $150,000 a year. To get a 10% increase, which is not my opinion, a good increase, but a pretty average or standard increase, that's an extra $15,000 every year on top of your health insurance costs. To me, that's not sustainable.
Not forever.
Not sustainable to
your sales aren't growing that much, probably.
Correct. In your goods and services. I mean, so for the business owner, that plus 10%, which again, in the eyes of the market, is actually a pretty good renewal.
Yeah.
I've seen renewals at 20%, 25%, 30% increase. So to the employer and to the employee, that's not a sustainable market.
So where does that leave us? What's going on? I mean, when you say it's not sustainable or unsustainable, when do we hit a brick wall here and say, we just can't stay in business anymore because the cost of healthcare is just too high and it's eating up more than all my profit I used to make?
Yeah, it's a difficult situation. Excuse me. I've seen not many, but some employers asking us, do I even have to offer health insurance?
Yeah.
Where else can my employees go for health insurance? And there's ways of which companies can mitigate some of that increase.
That's what I'd like to discuss. Yeah, what can these people do in light of these bricks coming at them?
Yeah, and it's it's passing some of that increase on to the employees.
Sure.
Within group health insurance, generally the employer will pay a portion of the rate and the employee has a contribution.
Right.
What we've been seeing in the marketplace is that deductibles are increasing, which is again a burden onto the employee.
Right.
And employers don't want to do this. They certainly don't want to pass that burden on to the employees, but that's one way to mitigate the cost. Increase your deductibles, increase so changing your plan design. Is one way.
But that just passes. That's like making solving the traffic problem in New York by making all the streets one way headed south. Because now it's New Jersey's problem.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
But I don't want you guys to get away from this for a second.
Yeah.
The business owner does not have to offer health insurance.
Correct.
Period.
Yep.
Even over 15 employees in Massachusetts?
They do not have to offer health insurance.
Oh, I thought they did.
Nope.
Quite frankly, that's
now, years ago, prior to the Affordable Care Act, in September of 2010, there used to be something called the Fair Share plan or mandate, and then employees of 6 and less had to offer health insurance.
Yeah.
That went away with the Affordable Care Act.
Okay.
Now, I've had many conversations with company owners that the employee benefits are in place to attract and retain good
quality employees.
Absolutely right.
Right.
But you have you provide health insurance for your people, but so does your competitor.
Yeah.
So
well, that's exactly
correct.
what he's
So
saying.
you
got a
wonder
quality
after a while.
employee, and he or she doesn't have any access to either single or their spouse doesn't have access to health insurance. One or the other has to pick up the health insurance tab. Somebody's got to pick it up.
Right.
So it's great if your husband works for some big company and they provide a health care plan and you're part of their family plan and you can go ahead and work for this little business with 12 or 15, 20 employees and you don't have to worry about your health care.
Yep.
But believe me, I learned something every show, but I thought still if you had less than over 6 employees, you had to provide health care.
No,
that's all gone away.
All gone away. And even, there was some talk a number of years ago of Walmart not offering coverage to their employees.
That's because they're cheap as hell.
And, but the cost of benefit programs to an employer, they're usually the second or third line item.
Of course, it's a huge number.
In their budget. So, but again, even in Massachusetts today, 2018, the recruitment of employees is such a big thing. So employees are now asking, more so than I've ever seen before, okay, you're going to pay me whatever, $15 an hour. I like the commute. I want to come work for you. What is your benefit package?
Exactly.
So they're asking more and more. So if you're an employer and you don't offer health insurance, you're probably not going to get that
behind the curve.
employee.
If some other company is going to offer him health insurance and he needs health insurance, he's going to go with the other company. I work for the University of Massachusetts. And our benefit package, I think it's like 35-40% of the cost of each professor and
Sure.
advisor like myself. It's huge.
Yeah.
And state director is faced with that every single year, those increases.
Right.
Believe me, you can see the stress on her face, poor woman.
It's difficult.
Yeah, it is.
One thing you mentioned for business group health plan designs, today the name of the game is higher deductibles. So that's one of the
Yeah, I mean,
That's one of the big items today.
yeah, and it's unfortunate because I think really over the last 30 years ago, it wasn't uncommon for folks to have a $5,000 deductible. They were
Right.
called indemnity plans.
Right.
And then what happened was HMOs came along, right? Health maintenance organizations, and they provided a $20 copay if you went to see the doctor, which is a great plan.
In plan, right.
Right, so instead of a $5,000 deductible in the 70s and early 80s,
Yeah.
now employees had a copayment.
Right.
And HMOs have been around for the last 30 years, but deductibles have started to creep up for those services that are high cost services.
Right.
And they continue to
Surgeries
creep.
and, yeah.
Correct. Inpatient stays, imagings, day surgeries, all of these things cost money. So. And our ways to help employers so if an employer gets an increase in cost, 15% increase, they look to change the deductible to reduce that 15% increase. So now that deductible increase is burdened to the employee, but a lot of employers don't want to burden their employees, so they put in what's called an HRA, or a health reimbursement arrangement. And that allows the employer to pay some of that deductible. So they get the lower cost, but then we do an analysis to see if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So there are ways in
So
which
it's a gambling.
Correct.
Yeah.
No doubt about
You're
it.
rolling the dice saying, hey, I got healthy employees.
Exactly.
Let me go with an HRA and, keep my good employees at least.
Now, another big thing that you talk about in your talking points, John, is the call it administrative challenge. Coach, don't go to sleep when I say administration. I know he's a salesman, so when you talk about administration, he nods off. Administrative challenge
The bureaucratic
for small
what?
businesses.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And that challenge is no human resource department,
Yeah.
no HR. John,
Correct.
what's going on?
Yeah, so generally, you have an employer that's 25 employees.
Yeah.
Most times they don't have a dedicated human resource person,
They're not big
director.
enough.
They're not big enough and they don't have that salary. So what we see is, I deal with directors of finance, I deal with office managers, I deal with presidents of companies. They take on that role,
Right.
Which again is just a burden administratively. So that's where a broker like a Rogers and Gray Insurance will come in and we'll actually become part of the company.
Yeah.
And we say, you know what, we become part of your HR department.
Yeah.
So we're going to help you with compliance. We're going to help you with education. We're going to help you with communication of your plan designs, et cetera, to your employees. Because again, at small business, they
Yeah, the employees themselves, whom do they speak to?
yeah, so they
have
can
questions.
call us directly.
They call it,
You
yeah.
know.
I had 120 employees at my biggest point. And I was the HR director, quite frankly. And when it came to every year or two looking at all insurance, including health care, liability, all of it, I worked very closely with my insurance agent, like yourselves, who was in Rhode Island, not here.
You were the HR department?
I was the HR
That's
department.
pretty scary. You're a really tough guy.
I am. And but at least I got to play a lot of golf with my insurance agent. But that's another story. But yeah, no, I'm even with 100 employees, I didn't have an HR department per se.
Right.
I handled each division. Each store manager did what he had to do within each branch. But at the top level in downtown in the offices, I handled the overall insurance.
Right.
So,
Which is companies do what they have to do.
Yeah.
But there's so many things that fall under that umbrella.
Yeah.
That again, that's where a good benefits broker comes in.
and
That's
I used to
a,
pay 100% of my employees' health care.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Completely not. But it wasn't onerous.
Yeah.
I'm going back 30 years, granted, but
Yeah.
I think it was $400 or $500 a month.
Yeah.
So, it wasn't an onerous thing. And again, a lot of my employees their spouse already had insurance, so that worked out fine too.
Coach, there's yet more administrative challenges for small business, according to John. John, there's compliance issues for benefit plans.
Yeah.
What are you talking about there?
So it seems over the last, really since the Affordable Care Act, state government, federal government have played a larger role in what an employer needs to do. So around compliance, I talk about employee handbooks and harassment and things that companies need to have in place to protect themselves, the company, but also to move that to a communication platform to the employees to make sure they're doing all the appropriate things. Getting back to not having an HR person or a dedicated person around all of these issues, it can certainly become a daunting task. And again, that's where a benefit broker comes in, helps them with, let's take a look at your handbook. Let's look at your how you're handling compliance around I-9 forms and the chip. I mean, there's just so much information.
Sexual harassment, bullying. I mean, there's so much.
Social media and
right.
And how you're using that.
Yeah, that's the new kid on the block.
Correct. So there's just a lot of things that companies need to be aware of, react to, and put in place safeguards. And again, I think that's if you don't have a dedicated person, and even if you do have a dedicated person, you need help and support around that.
That's right.
For sure.
I have helped probably a dozen folks in Eastern Massachusetts start their own HR consulting businesses because it has become that big an issue.
Absolutely.
And they're all busy.
Yeah.
They've all, they're somebody that you can call when you need advice.
Yep.
They're somebody that you can have kind of on the periphery of your staff.
Right.
That, you're subscribing to their advice, so you get 10 calls a month or whatever it is.
Yep.
Yeah. It's a huge issue even for a small business with 20, 30 employees. You got to pay attention to it because there's so darn many laws. Yeah. I would imagine that most small business people violate some law someplace almost every month. I mean, it is insane.
It really is.
It's really insane.
It
Pardon
really
me,
is.
folks, but
Yeah.
it is crazy.
Right.
You know?
Right. I mean, and again, I think benefit programs are extremely important to offer.
Yeah, they
but
are.
You look at the cost,
Yeah.
then you look at the compliance, and then there's a number of different other areas that we're going to touch on here. But it's a lot for a company that just wants to, I'm a metal fabricating shop.
I make widgets.
I want to do what I do, what I know, what my employees know. Yet you have all this other stuff on the side.
That's
so,
right.
Again, to me, it's
it's over legislation. Is that what we're saying?
I would say so, but again, I mean, some of the legislation is needed for sure.
Yeah, some of it is, but I think it always goes too far. Quite frankly, I think
specifically here in
this is just me
Massachusetts,
personally,
for sure.
especially in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
We too darn many laws now. Relax, folks.
Right. It's hard to keep track of them all.
It's impossible.
And then even getting into COBRA administration, which is, someone leaves your company for whatever the reason, you have to offer them coverage, and you have to do it in such a way that fits the mandate of how you need to process or give that employee that's leaving your company the ability to take their coverage with them.
That's right.
So there's just a lot of itunes that folks need to be aware of.
Bureaucracy, I believe we call it.
Well, we're going to pick on what you've been leading up to, this administrative challenge for business, especially the small businesses, is your question is, with all this challenge going on, where do you go for help? What do you do?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what these folks want to know. What
You're running
do?
a business. Where are you going?
What do I do?
So what's the deal?
Yeah. So obviously, my advice. I'm a employee benefit consultant. I think you need to have a good one.
Yeah.
You need to have someone, and it's not just a consultant that will go out and get you rates.
Right.
That's quite honestly the easy part.
Sure it is.
Going out, getting a census, a plan design, sending it to the Blue Cross Blue Shield, Tufts, Harvard Pilgrim neighborhood.
Yeah.
That's the easy part. And if that's all your consultant is doing, they need to do more for you.
A lot more in today's world.
The value is, the rates for Rogers and Gray, for myself, number one priority. Right? We need to get those rates for the company, for the employees. the lowest rates we possibly can with the best plan design
With the
that we
best plan,
possibly
based
can.
on what,
But
company
once
can-
that is done, which is really a 3-month cycle every
Sure,
year,
that's right.
then the value of what we bring to the table comes into play. And my advice to the business owners would be, make sure you have a really good benefit consultant
Right.
that's going to help you with not only your renewal, but everything else in between.
during
because
the
there's a lot of
year
it.
or
Correct.
two, whatever, yeah.
Yep, exactly right.
Absolutely. That's what they need. They need that ongoing, up-to-date advice.
Help and support.
What do I do here?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even around rates, there are things that consultants can offer around rates to try to, again, mitigate some of those costs.
Right.
And as long as it's communicated correctly, communicated with the employees and education, then I think we're all doing exactly what we can, or the best that we can for.
All right, was it a rumor that I heard, or is it the truth years ago, that you better take a look at your insurance costs? Because if you stay with the same insurance company too long and you don't get competitive rates, they're going to keep raising you up more than they should. Is it true or not?
I would say not true.
Okay.
No. I mean, the carriers that we deal with, which are the largest in the state, they're loyal. They like loyal customers.
Do they?
Now, it doesn't, and I wouldn't say not to go check the market,
Yeah.
to check the pricing. That's certainly valued, and I would do that. But, I mean, I think carriers are in a, and again, I don't work for a carrier, but
Are
they're
they in competitive position? Are they really competing with each other?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
well, that's a good thing.
Yep. Now, on this topic, though, under 50 employees, rates are filed with the state by all carriers.
Yeah.
So if we go out to market to Blue Cross, Tufts, Harvard, et cetera, they can't change their rates.
Right.
Their rates that they quote for a small business are the rates they're
They're
going to stay
mandated
with.
by the state?
Correct.
So what that's saying to me is that they're all going to be the same if you get asked for a price.
Close, it depends. I mean,
Pretty close, though.
certain underwriting factors with different carriers.
Yeah.
But the point is that one carrier can't lower their rates based on another carrier's lower rates in the under 50 market.
Yeah.
They have no flexibility on that.
Yeah.
So it's really their rates are their rates, which again, from a consulting standpoint, then we need to go out and look at the whole market.
Right.
We need to make sure we're putting in place, again, the best possible plan within the budget of that employer.
Right.
So those are the questions that we ask. What's your budget? What kind of plan design do you want? What's the demographics of your population? If you have 30 single guys that never go to the doctor, which I'm not recommending.
Yeah.
Please go to the doctor and have at least your annual
At least
physical.
the annual.
But if you don't, then maybe the plan design needs to reflect that, because why pay more premium if
Right.
it's not being utilized?
Yeah, right.
So,
Okay.
Well, so throughout all of this, John, the big question, and it's a question that you raise, can small businesses offer affordable health care? That's bottom line. Can small businesses
What can they
provide
do? Yeah.
health care for the employees or not? Yes or no?
I would say yes. Yeah, they can.
Okay.
And again, if you have a quality benefit consultant helping you,
Yep.
They can ask those questions. You can try to figure out demographics of your group. What's the population look like? What's the appetite for risk, if you will? So there are plans out there that can help a small business owner save money on the Blue Crosses, the Tufts, or the Harvard Pilgrims.
Sure.
It's just a matter of again having a consultant that'll
That's the key.
turn over
Have
every
somebody,
rock to
because
find it for 'em.
you're the expert.
Correct.
My small business, I would be the expert, as you said, in manufacturing the widgets and high quality and customer relationship, and I mean all the other things that the entrepreneur needs to be. You can't possibly be the expert you are.
No.
Because this is what you do, Yeah.
Correct.
No, but you got to say that the business person who's looking for help, I would say, without favoring yourself, but what is that small business owner looking for? In a health consult. What questions would that? What questions would Coach ask if he were to get quality advice?
Yeah. To
Versus not so quality.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it would be, how long have you been in the business?
Sure.
What's your expertise? How many clients do you have? I would ask for referrals.
Right.
Can you send me 5 clients that you've worked with?
That you're working with.
What does your team look like?
Yep.
Certainly at Rogers and Gray, I don't do it myself.
Right.
I've got a team, a service team behind me. What are some of the services that you offer as a consultant? Is it just you and you're going to go get rates, and then if you need me, call me, I'll be reactive? I think a benefits consultant needs to be proactive. Yep. Some legislation just came out around this item called the EMAC assessment. An EMAC assessment is really a fine to companies for employees that are on mass health.
Yeah.
But we were very far ahead of that curve of getting that information out to our clients. And again, that wouldn't name any names, but I know some benefit consultants that maybe weren't ahead of that curve.
Right.
And it kind of hit that employer blindsided. They didn't know about it. So those are some of the questions that I would advise business owners to ask, and be sure you're getting the best possible advice and service that you can.
Very good.
Okay, so the coverages, there's some ideas here that you're presenting to us, HRA, self-insured, HSA, and so forth. Sorry, I don't have a clue, so you're going to help me out.
No, so we've touched on a few of those. HRA, again, is where the employer helps the employee with their deductible.
Right.
And as long as the cost savings of moving up to a higher deductible, and we do an analysis to make sure that doesn't reduce all that bank of money, then that's one strategy. Self-insurance to small business owners, that's another strategy. I would recommend everyone look at it. It may or may not be the appropriate avenue, but I think it's something that needs to be reviewed.
Sure.
HSAs are a higher deductible plan. Haven't really taken off here in the New England market, but that's something that should be investigated and at least should be discussed with the business owner, with their employees, to see if it, again, I think with the increasing cost of health insurance, our job and at Rogers & Gray, we certainly take this seriously. We need to uncover every stone to see what works for a client.
Okay. So healthcare inflation, and you've mentioned this before, the frightening increases. But you know something, this elephant, that's what I call the elephant, healthcare, talking about healthcare, it's huge. Coach, we're going to have to do another episode on this, if you don't mind.
I don't mind.
Okay. John, you're going to hang around and help us out?
I certainly can.
All right, well, we're going to do another episode to continue on, because we're only partway through what John can help us with today. So this is the Fox Robbins Business Show. This is episode 1 of 2 on healthcare for small business and understanding the issues. And also, any Fox Robbins show is uploaded to YouTube for your convenience. You look at it anytime you please. Go to YouTube, and at the search box, just type in one single word, Fox Robbins, and go to the library and pick out what would be helpful to you. And make sure you tune in for a second episode on healthcare, and we'll see you next time.